Welcome to Abolition Radio, the broadcast outreach of Love Never Fails, inviting you to join the fight to end human trafficking.
Oh, give me eyes to see. Oh, give me strength to lead. You give me all I need. So give me courage to believe.
Each week, Abolition Radio sheds light on the darkness of modern slavery, celebrates the work of abolitionists who are fighting for freedom, and equips the church to engage in the work of justice with hope rooted in God's Word. Our goal is to see a radio audience become an army of gospel activists.
You're in the neighborhoods we live in. You're in the ones we're passing by. You're in the ones we call our neighbors, and the ones who still escape our eyes.
Now, here's the host of Abolition Radio, founder and executive director of Love Never Fails, Vanessa Scott.
Thanks, Dave, and welcome to Abolition Radio, the broadcast outreach of Love Never Fails. We're in for quite a treat today, and thanks for being with us. But before we introduce our guests, I want to invite you to give a big hand clap to my partner in justice, Benita Hopkins.
Hey, everybody.
She clapped for herself. I'm clapping. There you go. I love that. The clap
Why
track.
the hand clap?
Yay.
Thank you.
And then, of course, we have two very special guests.
Yeah.
And they're special to me in a variety of ways. But today they're going to be telling you about some really awesome work that they're doing in the way of physical health, bringing health into their lives as a way to cope with and or treat trauma. And then, of course, helping others in their community to do the same. And so with us, we have our health coach at the I Am House, Rachel Carrasco. Hi,
Yay.
Rachel.
Hi. Woohoo.
Woohoo.
Hey, Rachel.
And so Rachel's going to be talking to us about the things that she's doing in the house, specifically with our thriving survivors there, that really are improving their health. And there's some challenges there we're going to be talking about in terms of, just peeling back the layers and making way for physical health to be able to be a part of their daily lives. And then, of course, we have with us on the line Maury. And Maury is actually a thriving survivor that is taking some awesome classes, yoga classes, and actually becoming an instructor. So welcome, Maury. We're so glad to have you.
Vanessa.
Yeah.
Hey, Maury.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. And so we're going to just start off with you, Maury. I wanted to just invite you to kind of tell us a little bit about how this embracing of physical health has really helped you in your journey towards healing.
Well, it's a very deep process, to be honest with you. There's a lot of elements that go into it, and a big part of it for me personally is just focusing the energy on certain body parts. I mean, I had an injury from a traumatic experience that I had when I was in the game, and where I was kicked in the leg, and, we don't really realize sometimes as people that, things in our body can affect us emotionally. Every time, it hurts, sometimes you think about that stuff. And so how yoga has helped me is just to, focus on those certain places where I've been hurt and create enough space, even if I didn't exactly know the answer, but just to be open to whatever the answer was or whatever type of physical or emotional healing that I needed. And the thing that I like about yoga is it just works with everybody's pace. You just you come as you are, and the whole point is just to heal.
Awesome. And you are learning how to become a teacher, is that right?
Yes, I am. And so at the end of this month, I'll be getting teaching classes.
Yay!
Yes, I'm excited.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, and so I want to ask you a little, because there's different types of yoga that's out there, and so I don't know very much about it, to be honest with you, and so maybe you could educate us on the type. Is it, because I've seen yoga classes that are, where it's really hot, right? I don't know what that's called. Is there it's it's steam type of yoga or something like that? It's a hot box yoga. I don't know.
That's so funny.
And then there's other other ones that are more stretching oriented, some that are outdoors. What kind are you learning?
Right. That's so funny. You know, Vanessa, whenever I bring up yoga, I get one of two responses. Either they say, wow, you must be pretty bendy, or they say, what's that one practice with all the steam and all the crazy hot rooms and stuff? And that one, there's different kinds. Sometimes the room you'll leave the room steamy, the windows will be all foggy, and it wasn't even one of those classes. So sometimes it's just the effort, but all of the staff are from different backgrounds and have their own experiences and bring those to the table. But it is all alignment-based. And so most of the teachers have majored either in school or just their own studies in anatomy and just knowing how the body works. And, like, you should as a yoga teacher, but you would be surprised that a lot of yoga teachers aren't alignment-based. And so a lot of times those poses aren't, like, really benefiting people to the fullest potential. And so that's what I respect about Yoga Garden. But we do mostly vinyasa style, which is like a flow of different poses that works with your breathing. And so it's like very much at your own pace. It's not, it doesn't have to be fast or slow. It's just, it works with you where you are. So we get all different kinds of walks of life that come in there, and everybody can just basically be themselves and work with that, whatever their healing process is. But yes, it's mostly vinyasa, which is a flow of breath and poses.
Okay. And so just thinking some more about the breathing exercises, I know that in particular with anxiety, and there is a lot of focus as you're trying to gain some healing over anxiety or even anger in some instances, different manifestations of emotion. Breathing, right, comes into play, and it really centers you and helps you to get in touch with yourself inwardly. Is that kind of the focus when you talk about the breathing exercises?
Well, yeah, and it really does. I mean, if you think about it biologically, feelings and emotions are just chemicals that are sent from our brain to our heart and are then pumped through our bodies. And so that's why we feel certain things like shortness of breath or sweaty palms or however we react to, anxiety or whatever. And so with the breath, a lot of times, like, for one, when you focus on the breath, you're no longer focusing on the problem. And so it's probably not sending all of those same chemicals to the heart. And it's also just, it's sending breath to parts of really all parts of your body, but parts you don't even realize because maybe you're not so much in touch with those areas. And so yoga, for me personally, I'm flexing and moving muscles that I didn't even know existed before this program. And it's so crazy because we go throughout our days with all this moving, and it's kind of like a car. If you don't drive it or you don't use certain parts of it, it just kind of, it gets old. You know what I mean? It kind of wears down.
Yeah.
It doesn't have life in it.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And that's what that breath is. You're breathing life into those parts. You're moving them.
Mm-hmm. That is so good. And so tell me some more about just when you're thinking about trauma, connecting trauma to the breathing and whatnot. I'll just speak for myself. Before I started getting centered, I noticed I was grinding my teeth a lot and I was holding my breath a lot. And I wasn't even aware of that because, you're just kind of in this position of trying to keep it together, and it manifests in the way that you breathe and the way that your posture. And do you find that as you've been healing, that breathing and, and becoming more sort of relaxed in different parts of your body are helping you with the traumas that you've experienced?
It definitely does, because you brought up a great point. Like, we're not even aware of the fact that when certain things happen to us or we think about certain things, we tend to hold our breath. And it's funny because it's that breath that's helping us, kind of stay in the flow with things. And, again, that has to do with the body's reaction to things. And like you said, if you focus on the breathing, it's kind of like it takes the edginess off of that emotion and that traumatic experience. They have many different techniques in psychology. Some of them work with light, some of them work with yoga, but what they all have in common is they're kind of centered around the breathing, because it's like it all has to do with the chemicals in the body, but the breathing, that's a big one.
Yeah, I love it. Love it.
That's interesting you mentioned the breathing and trauma, because I found that to be true. It was always the running joke when I was doing the birth of my children, because that was the first thing I do. You go through all the breathing classes, but the first thing I do, I would hold my breath. Mm-hmm. When that pain came, I would instead of breathing like I was taught to do, I would hold my breath because that was so,
so painful.
Yes, and so traumatic.
Yeah.
Right. And that's natural. We all do it. The other thing is that people tend to be focused on things like money, school, jobs, and stuff like that, which is understandable because that's what our social and our economic life is all about. But we pay so little attention to our health, and those are our vehicles. Our body is our temple,
Yeah.
And little do we realize it doesn't even take, having this background in anatomy or anything like that. It could be something as simple as, okay, I'm going to take 10 minutes out of my day to do some healthy breathing.
Yeah.
And then maybe getting into the habit of that, and then it just comes so natural. You can kind of just implement it whenever you want. It's like a muscle. It's like you're training yourself to be aware of what you're doing with your body.
Love it.
Love it.
Okay, so we'll be right back in just a second to hear a little bit more from Maury and Rachel.
We'll be back with more Abolition Radio right after these messages.
Trash bills weighing you down? At Case Industries, we specialize in lowering waste costs and providing trash consolidation and compaction services for multifamily properties, condos, and commercial shopping centers. Let us help you reduce operating expenses and increase property NOI. Case Industries, saving the planet, saving you money. Contact us today for a property trash and recycling assessment online at caseindustries.us or call 510-566-4223. That's caseindustries.us or call 510-566-4223. Case Industries, the property manager's friend.
Hi, I'm Sandra Herrera, CEO of Case Industries. I've found that many employers are looking for ways to help the community but don't know how. I encourage you to consider supporting Abolition Radio as a corporate sponsor. Love Never Fails offers all the resources necessary to help young women and men overcome the trauma of exploitation and abuse. And that's why I'm proud to have Case Industries supporting Abolition Radio.
Welcome back to Abolition Radio, where you are invited to join the fight against human trafficking.
Welcome back to Abolition Radio, the broadcast outreach of Love Never Fails. So I just want to sort of invite Rachel into this conversation. And so I know that you are actually doing Zumba and kickboxing and cycling, right? That's your second or third job, right? Because I know you do other stuff too.
Love it.
Yeah. So, and for as long as I can remember, well, at least since we've been teenagers, you have, and I've, by the way, for those of you who are listening, I've had the good pleasure of being best friends with Rachel since we were 5 years old. We actually sang in the Super Bowl together.
Oh,
yes.
Wow. At Stanford University.
That's right. What was it, 16? Super Bowl 16?
I don't know.
We're giving our age away.
Miami
I remember that
versus
Super Bowl.
San Francisco.
Against the Dolphins. Yeah. Right?
Pictures to prove it.
Yes, we do. But don't ask to see them because the hair was not right.
It was a different time. Yeah,
I was catching bees in my hair at that time. But anyway, that's a different show. So, Ray, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing. First of all, you've been out, you've done street outreach with us. You've been involved with Love Never Fails since the beginning. And I'd just like to hear a little bit from you about, what have you seen so far? And now you're the health coach in the I Am House. Tell us a little bit about how this issue of, kind of addressing human trafficking has impacted your life. And then, and then what you're doing about it.
So I think on my first outreach, I was just amazed at just what I saw, just the love that these girls needed and just strived for. And, watching you guys do so much work and putting in your time and efforts and money and your just livelihood. My husband and I just wanted to be a part somehow. So when we went on our first outreach, And my heart just broke for these young women, and I could only think of my own daughter. And what if it had been her? Or what if, it was my niece? Or what if? And I realized that, these are our daughters. These are our nieces. These are our family. And so we had to do something. And then when Vanessa approached me about being the health coach for the girls, I jumped on it. This is something I know. I've been teaching group fitness classes for 21 years. So I know how to exercise, and I've always been exercising since seems like before time. But what I realized was some of the girls, or most of the girls coming into the house and coming off the street, is they don't know how to eat. They've never had to. They've never worried about their health or their weight. It's always just been real easy. And coming off the street, it's a whole new life for them, a whole new way of eating. I mean, I meet with the girls when they come, and they get settled, and then I meet with them and we talk about what they want to get out of the program, if they want to learn how to eat better, if they want to, learn some exercises, if they want to lose or gain weight, whatever their process is, and we come up with a plan. But it amazes me, because I've always had to watch what I eat, how they don't know the first thing about what's a good carb, what's a bad carb, what's a good fat, what's a healthy fat. And just going through that process with them and teaching them about it, and their eyes lighting up when they realize that, I can't have pasta every day, 3 meals a day, and still expect to lose weight.
Right.
It's just crazy. But it's so, the smile on their face, though, when they complete jumping rope for 5 minutes. I know it's a little thing for some people, but they're really happy, and they're really like, oh my gosh, I can do this. I'm on it. This is my path. Mm. But it also is disheartening, too, when they fall off and they're like, and so we just kind of work with them and try to build up their self-esteem while teaching them how to eat right. And it's amazing. It's amazing the effect that healthy living can have on them, and teaching them about healthy eating, and that their body is a temple of God, and how to take care of it. And I just, the process is amazing.
Yeah, and so on that point, chemically speaking, the endorphins that are released when you do, when you have a good workout. I just started a workout regime just this past week, and it is pretty intense. And I going into it, I thought, this is insane. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this. And as I pushed past that point where I said I can't do any more, is when, those endorphins started kicking in, and I just started feeling like I was on a natural high, and through the day, even just kind of floating along and feeling really good about it. And so, that's one of the reasons why I thought it was so important to have you come into the house. And I know it's baby steps, because not everybody is ready for that kind of intense pushing. But, I think psychologically speaking, there's some benefit towards working towards those really strong, hardcore workouts that I know you know how to do so well, Rachel.
And I think that's where we start. We start out with talking about what they're eating and what they should be eating and calories. And then we just walk and we talk, and then we come back, and the next week it's just like, okay, do you want to run up the hill? Let's try that. And it's just those baby steps. Like, there were some weeks where nobody wanted to work out, and we just talked about eating. It's, a few of them are smokers, so, we got to ease them. We can't expect it to be overnight.
Right.
But I think, and I feel like the benefits are outweighing their pushback on, I don't want to work out. They see it. They feel that endorphin that you talked about kick in once they get it, and once they've accomplished something that they thought they couldn't do. I mean, like just holding plank for 30 seconds. Some of them thought they couldn't do that. And when they accomplish it, they're like, well, okay, what's next? Let's go.
Right.
What do you got for me today?
And it's so interesting you mentioned those baby steps, because it's true. Each of them has told me, because now they're eating regularly. They're not used to eating regularly, so they're gaining weight, and they're noticing that they're gaining weight. But they are so interested into finding that maintenance plan, or finding that plan that works for them, the eating habits, the exercise, and that type of thing.
Yeah, and actually noting or taking notes, writing down what you're putting in your body, and reading the labels on stuff that's processed or stuff they get that's in a box or whatever.
Right.
Like one of them was eating oatmeal. She's like, I'm doing good. I was like, yeah. And she gained 2 pounds. I was like, well, what are you putting on your oatmeal? And come to find out, she was eating 700 calories with just her oatmeal, with the butter and the milk and the sugar. And I was like, well,
that was
that's
some
the problem.
good oatmeal.
Oh my
Woo!
goodness.
I want some.
I'm glad that you brought that up. Like, an alternative for sugar, maybe you try putting bananas in there.
Right.
Like, personally, I put granola in there, and it has a little sugar, but it's better, and you get more, I guess, fiber or protein.
Has that crunch. Satisfies
Or
you.
berries and egg whites to, get, if you're not getting full off it. And it's, half a cup, not 3 cups or 2 cups.
Right.
Okay, you
just
guys are
actually-
making me hungry.
I know. Let's stop talking food
Settle
now.
down. But just being aware, because I think so much, especially, I know for myself, I could eat all day and not be aware of what I'm putting in my body.
Mm-hmm.
So making that conscious effort to look at it and say, okay, this is what I'm putting in my body. This is about how many calories it is. What do I have left? What do I need to do? Am I getting my 2 to 3 servings of dairy? Am I getting my 3 to 5 of vegetables? Am I, my bread and cereal group? Am I getting my fruit? Am I getting my protein? And balancing it out. It's not just about cut the carbs out, cut the sugar out, but getting a balanced diet going as well.
Yeah.
Right. And also being aware of the fact that it's a challenge. It's a real fight because if you think about it, these food companies, they're selling us poison. Like, we don't realize it, but say something like Hot Cheetos or some type of chips, it has crazy things in it that you wouldn't even imagine putting in your mouth if it was just by itself. So it's a real fight. Like, there's people offering us poison, like cigarettes and stuff like that, and just being aware of that and just knowing that we should be putting our power, our gifts somewhere else.
Yeah, no,
Exactly.
that's so true. And actually, when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the use of medication, prescription medication, and also cigarettes. So we'll come right back in just a second with another episode of Abolition Radio.
We'll be back with more Abolition Radio right after these messages from our sponsors.
Hi, this is Vanessa Scott with Abolition Radio, where every week we invite you to join the fight to bring an end to human trafficking. Abolition Radio is the broadcast outreach of Love Never Fails, our nonprofit which is dedicated to the rehabilitation, education, and protection of youth involved or at risk of becoming involved in domestic sex trafficking. Our goal with Abolition Radio is to eradicate human trafficking in all forms, sex trafficking and labor trafficking locally and globally. We are excited to bring this program to KFAX as we will share stories of hope and opportunities to mobilize the body of Christ and turn this audience into an army of gospel activists who will speak up for justice and act on behalf of those who are trapped or recovering from slavery. Find us on Facebook at Abolition Radio or on the web at abolitionradio.org and join me each Saturday at 3 p.m. for an exciting episode of Abolition Radio right here on AM 1100 KFAX.
Welcome back to Abolition Radio, where you are invited to join the fight against human trafficking.
And welcome back to Abolition Radio, the broadcast outreach of Love Never Fails. So we were just chatting about eating, about things that are in our food, and just overall health and how it can really improve the healing process, specifically around trauma. And so I wanted to talk a little bit more about that because there's this cross-section of, when you've had a traumatic experience, and sometimes as early childhood, as your brain is developing, it can cause some delays. It can cause mental health issues. And you start to see some of these manifest in the way of a bipolar diagnosis or depression or anxiety diagnosis. And then that comes with some medication that needs to be taken. And oftentimes, many of the medications cause weight gain. And so we've had a heck of a time just in terms of balancing between our thriving survivors, and not just in the house, but just in general, when you're encouraging, you're encouraging someone to embrace their medication regimen instead, and usually it's an alternative to street drugs that are, people are trying to self-solve and self-medicate. So they're using their whatever's been prescribed to them, and then it's having this counter effect where they're gaining this weight, and then it creates it actually increases and heightens some of their anxiety and some of their depression and some of their, self-esteem issues really are pushed to the limit. And so it's kind of a catch-22 in a way. And I just wanted to get both of your perspectives on that, from a thriving survivor standpoint that may have had some exposure to young ladies and, young men that are taking medication and experiencing some of those symptoms. And then what you've seen, as you've been interacting, Rachel, any thoughts on that?
So as far as interacting with the girls, it's very, that's their first, when we weigh in, that's their first thing. It's like, it's my medication. And I'm sure it is to an extent, but I also know the girls who say it's their medication aren't tracking what they're eating. And I think if they actually sat down again and tracked what they were eating, and I know sometimes it's hard to try and figure out, okay, what kind of fats in this, what kind of calories. But I think if they stayed on track with that, 80% of it is eating. And exercise, they need that too, and it's amazing, and it'll make them feel amazing. But if their eating is on point, then I think that after, a few weeks, it'll balance them out, and they'll start seeing results. But they've got to get the eating under control and add some exercise in there for it to have any effect.
Okay, gotcha. What are your thoughts on that, Maury?
I think it's really sad because we have these symptoms, right, as people. We see there's these things wrong with us, whether it be emotions or now I can't eat or now I feel all anxious and nervous. And that's our body and our heart telling us, there's something wrong here. There's something that needs to change. I'm out of balance. And then our thing is like, okay, I don't know what to do. I'm going to go to the doctors. And then we get prescribed these pills. Or even worse, we don't go to the doctors. We maybe buy some marijuana or something like that, a cigarette, whatever. And what we're doing is not acknowledging those messages that are coming from our hearts and our bodies, but we're just trying to, get rid of those messages, but you're not getting rid of the problem. And so it's sad because it's like not only is it like the medication, the prescription pills, the cigarettes, and the obvious ones, but it's simple things like coffee even sometimes for some people, habits. It might be the TV. It's like we run away from these feelings and these symptoms that we're having. They're going to keep on coming back, and they're going to, whatever we're taking to try to get rid of them, it's going to cause other symptoms to keep on coming up. So I would just say for anybody who's ever feeling like they really just don't know what to do and like they don't know where to look, it's like just take a second and just be okay with that for a second and just think like, all right, life is not about stability or security all the time. Sometimes life is crazy, like the ocean, like it's insane sometimes, and I just need to accept that for a second and create some space for that. Okay, I don't know the answer right now. I'm having these problems, but that's okay with me for right now. I just need to be open to it instead of trying to run away from it, like we always teach in this society now.
Oh, yeah, anesthetizing with whatever it is. And I'm one of the things that I've been working on personally is my addiction to the phone and to texting and, and doing these things that distract whenever I'm upset. I tend to go towards, let me go and start Facebooking or let me go and start texting and instead, and it might be at a time when you're supposed to be happy. But, you might be triggered by something that's happening and you're at it during a happy time. I mean, for me, it's kind of a weird thing, but triggers actually happen when I'm at my happiest because it reminds me of things that I didn't have. And that's a kind of an oxymoron in a way. But and then what I noticed is instead of letting the emotions come in, I'd start texting and doing this phone thing instead of saying, let me cry a little bit. Maybe I need to mourn or I need to grieve the fact that I didn't have this type of childhood experience that I'm getting to witness my daughter go through or my son go through. So it's kind of interesting, making, like you said, it's not always going to be perfect, but you just accept things as it is and let the emotion come in.
Stay in that moment and allow that emotion to come in.
We remind the girls that, you may not be where you want to be physically wise or health wise, but it doesn't mean you're not on your way. You have to accept where you are now to get where you need to be. And I think that's the process. And I think we remind them by affirmation that they're all created, that this is God's creation. They are God's creation. They're beautiful and wonderfully made.
Yes.
And although that they're not where they want to be, it doesn't mean they're not going to get that. We have to accept where we are now to move on to where we're going.
That's
Exactly.
good. That's good. Yeah, accept where you are now to move where you're going. Yeah, so it's the serenity prayer, right?
Right. Where you
God,
are now.
accept the things I cannot change.
Yeah, he had to get you here to take you there. You have to go through this to get where he's called you to be.
That's right.
Yeah.
If we didn't go through what we went through, we wouldn't be who we are today.
Yeah, that's good.
Vanessa, if you didn't go through everything we went through as kids, there's no way you would be on this Love Never Fails thing today.
That's right.
He had to take you there to bring you here.
That's right. Ooh, come on. Come on. Now you're preaching to me. Come on.
And you're right. I mean, sometimes we're so mean to ourselves. Like, we might be trying to do the right thing, but we don't even encourage ourselves. Or we'll be like, oh, I did so bad today. Or, I was trying to do the right thing. Instead of just being okay with, like, okay, I didn't get all the things done that I wanted to, but I tried, and I tried really hard. And I'm just going to be happy with that or not happy with that and be okay with that.
Yeah, every day's a new day to get it right.
Yeah.
I like that.
Every day's a new day.
Every day's a new day.
Right.
Exactly. And we're all different people. We have these different paths, these different paces that we move by, and it's just beautiful. Like you said, God made everything the way it is. It's perfect the way it is, and it's imperfection.
That's right. That's right. And the areas that need to be worked on, He's helping us. So great. Okay, well, we're going to need to take a quick break here, and we'll be right back with another session of Abolition Radio.
We'll be back with more Abolition Radio right after these messages.
This is Pastor Gary from Faith Fellowship in San Leandro. We are so excited about the launch of Abolition Radio every Saturday. And we have seen Love Never Fails under Vanessa Scott grow right here in San Leandro out of our church at Faith Fellowship. And now her ministry, God gave her a passion to get young people out of the sex trafficking and sex slave industry. And she has been doing a phenomenal job. Not only is it locally, but now it's going globally. In fact, I prophesied to her that God was going to use her to go nationwide, and that's exactly what's been happening. She is a woman with a vision, with a direction, and a passion to see these young people come out of this kind of arena. And to God be the glory. Join with her every Saturday on Abolition Radio to hear what she has to say and then become a part of what she's doing. AbolitionRadio.org. Love never fails.
Welcome back to Abolition Radio, where you are invited to join the fight against human trafficking.
And welcome back to Abolition Radio, the broadcast outreach of Love Never Fails. So, Benita, I wanted to talk a little bit about when we had Arm of Care. So we've had Arm of Care come on to the show in the past.
Yes.
And Amy Lynch,
yes,
the president of Arm of Care, has joined us. And I wanted to just touch on your experience, and I wanted to share a little bit about mine. Specifically with the exercises that they did. Again, bringing it back to that physical, to that health factor in addressing trauma. And they did some breathing exercises and stretches with us when we went up for our advance,
yes,
which is our Love Never Fails version of a retreat. Instead of retreating, we're advancing forward. And so we went up there for Leadership Advance, and we did some stretching, and then we did some body maps with them. So tell me about your experience on that.
On which one?
Either one. Yeah.
Well, at first, the breathing, because I had done that with Arm of Care before, was very getting in touch with yourself and your body and feeling every breath as you take the breath in and as you breathe out, just feeling every fiber of your being where that air flow is going. And that's not something that we normally, on a normal basis, for every breath, take the time to do. And that was really powerful, very similar to what Maury was saying regarding yoga. I'm not a yoga expert by any means, but it was my own yoga experience.
Yeah.
My own yoga type of thing. And to really take the time to feel those and allow my brain to acknowledge the breath and where it was at the moment and feel it, go down even to the tips of my fingers and toes and that type of thing. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
And even more powerful, as she was explaining it to us, for a person who has been exploited, how their bodies are not their own, really. And allowing them to, using this as a teaching tool, trauma care, taking care of our bodies, that every aspect, the deeper aspects of our bodies.
Yeah, no, I agree. I remember that now, the breathing it in. She would say, breathe it into your stomach and your feet, into your hands. And I was like, oh, yeah, I actually felt it. Am I weird? Like, I really feel this breath going into other different parts of my body, which I think for me, and being a trauma survivor, it's been difficult because you tend to shut parts of your body off. And I remember I used to have this mentality is that I am what I do. I am what I do. So if I accomplish this goal, if I, do good in school or at work, that's my complete value. And I had no intrinsic value for my own body. Right. I was detached from it. And when I began to become reacquainted with my body in a positive way, it was so It was so powerful. Yes, there were times of not liking it, not liking the way it looked or whatever. But the more that we can embrace this beautiful creation that God has made, like when we go to Love Don't Hurt and we do our house, right? Our masterpiece.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
With, all the, so Benita goes into the schools and she pours like water on this beautiful picture that's a masterpiece. It's a house, water and oil and I don't know what else, dye.
The storms of life happen.
Yeah. And then, as you're reclaiming your structure. Right. It's, you need to know where your roof is. You need to know where your door is and where your foundations, the strength of your foundation.
Yeah. And you need to know those resources or what resources you need in order to build that structure.
That masterpiece back up.
Right.
Yeah. That's so good. And then we did the breathing and then we did the body mapping.
Yeah.
Woo,
that was powerful.
Wow.
I was really looking forward to it because I'd never done it before.
Yeah.
And I had no earthly idea what it was about, even how I would react to it, that type of thing. And it was really powerful. I know my partner and we paired in twos. Mm-hmm. And it was my mentee. It was Regina, and she drew my silhouette, on the floor, on the paper. And we were to just begin to write on the silhouettes of ourselves, how we felt about ourselves or that part of our bodies or whatever. And for me, I could only think of, at the time, being on the floor, my knees were hurting. So I wrote some knees hurting. I was writing those negative things on all the body parts that were hurting at the time, at that moment.
Yep.
But the more I played with it and the more I looked at it, I began to reclaim those parts. And then scriptures came to mind, and I began to put various scriptures on various parts of my body. I started with
that's good.
From the top of my head all the way down. And Ephesians 6 was one of the ones that I really used for that. My loins girt about with the truth, and putting on the breastplate of righteousness, the shield of faith, those things, and many other scriptures. But it was powerful for me. And I have it in my room on my wall.
You put it up on the wall. Okay. Yeah, I have mine in my garage, and I keep thinking I can't throw this away because it's so meaningful, and I need to probably frame it or something because I, like you. So mine was this body that was kind of twisted and turned all around, and that's how I think that's how I feel like I came into this world all twisted and messed up. And then, but then what it became was I added flags onto my body, and it became art and dance.
Right.
With the flags, that twisting and turning became music. It became dance.
That's interesting to hear you say that, because when I first saw yours, I immediately went to dance.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, oh, that is so perfectly you.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're the dance queen. And so when I saw your map, I was like, oh, dance. But it's interesting to hear you say that was not the original intent in your heart originally.
Yeah, no, it was this, let me pull my body on one side and my legs on the other, and a little bit of confusion and a little bit of not knowing, being out of misaligned, and so then it began, like you said, I began to speak scripture and speak life over my legs, and that they would carry me not to the grave, but to places of healing and places that would not only restore myself but others. And
that's powerful.
Yeah, it was really good. And then, reclaiming, especially for survivors of abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, like Maury had talked about, being when she was in the life, getting hit on her leg, I think she said. And so, like, reclaiming that thigh, and saying this thigh is restored, it's healed, and it belongs to the Lord, and it's a vessel that's available to Him for healing. Really, really powerful to be able to do that. So thank you, Arm of Care. You guys are the bomb.com.
Yes, we learned a lot that day.
Yeah, so good. Well, we want to encourage you to jump onto our Facebook page on Abolition Radio, and maybe share some thoughts with us about different things that you're doing in your community in the way of incorporating physical health in your life to help yourself heal from trauma. Or maybe you're running. I know a couple of my friends, actually Marie, she's quite the runner, right?
Yes, she is.
She's the program manager of Project Look For Me.
Right.
And she says she runs like 2 or 3 some odd miles every day. Maybe it might not be every day. I'm sorry, Marie. It's a lot. And she looks fantastic. Yes. She's in fantastic health. And, and then of course, Rachel, she's doing her workouts constantly, and you just know when people are including that in their life. They're peppy, they're they have their down times, but those endorphins are going, and they're one with their body. So share with us what you're doing. And in particular, if you've are a survivor of trauma, things that you think would be helpful to others that have experienced what you've experienced. We want to hear about it. So come on and
things
like us.
Have worked.
Yeah, things that have worked. Yeah. So like the Abolition Radio page or the Love Never Fails page, and we'll have a little conversation with you. So in a moment, we're going to come back. And we're going to hear about events that are going on in the community. Again, thank you so much to our guests, Rachel Carrasco and Maury Sylvester. We appreciate you guys. We love you. And we'll be right back with another session of Abolition Radio.
We'll be back with more Abolition Radio right after these messages from our sponsors.
Trash bills weighing you down? At Case Industries, we specialize in lowering waste costs and providing trash consolidation and compaction services for multifamily properties, condos, and commercial shopping centers. Let us help you reduce operating expenses and increase property NOI. Case Industries, saving the planet, saving you money. Contact us today for a property trash and recycling assessment online at caseindustries.us or call 510-566-4223. That's caseindustries.us or call 510-566-4223. Case Industries, the property manager's friend.
Hi, I'm Sandra Herrera, CEO of Case Industries. I've found that many employers are looking for ways to help the community but don't know how. I encourage you to consider supporting Abolition Radio as a corporate sponsor. Love Never Fails offers all the resources necessary to help young women and men overcome the trauma of exploitation and abuse. And that's why I'm proud to have Case Industries supporting Abolition Radio.
Welcome back to Abolition Radio, where you are invited to join the fight against human trafficking.
And And welcome back to Abolition Radio, the broadcast outreach of Love Never Fails. Before we jump into events, I just wanted to make a couple of our requests known. So, first of all, I always want to suggest that you, or recommend that you learn more about us by going to our website, which is loveneverfailsus.com. Also, our Facebook page, which is Abolition Radio. And you can like that page. Also, abolitionradio.org is where all of our previous episodes are recorded and posted. And then, of course, our Love Never Fails page, Facebook page. And then there's a couple other ways that you can connect with us. We've actually produced 4 public service announcements that are targeted at teachers and parents and the community at large, and they're 30 seconds long. They're very brief, but they're a great way to raise awareness in your community. Maybe share them on your page, share them with in an email, maybe to folks that you're trying to educate on this issue. And so go to Vimeo, our Vimeo page, vimeo.com/Love Never Fails Us. And you'll see our 4 PSAs there. So please do check that out. We also want to ask for your help. So we actually were at a Love Never Fails meeting the other day. And one of, actually, Benita, my partner in justice, her car was broken into. And someone took our projector, which we use to do a lot of our education. And so if there's someone out there that would like to donate a projector to us so we can keep this show on the road, we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Also, we just recently were given the opportunity. We were asked to take in a woman with her 2 children into our IM house. And we were prepared to do that, and we were just going to walk by faith and get it done. But it was actually going to push us over our limit because right now we don't have a van for the house. And so we are looking desperately for a van so that we can transport women and children, up to 10 children and 5 women. Ideally, we'd like a 9-seat van, but 7-seat is fine too, and that would allow us at least to transport the children to school and the women to their programs. And so, if you could help us with that, I know it's a lot to ask, but hey, ask, seek, and knock. That's what we're doing. Also, the women in the house are doing a fantastic job working their program, and we want to be able to reward them. We want to take them to baseball games and to, like the students over at Lorenzo Manor, they raised money for the girls to be able to go to Great America. Yay! We're celebrating that all the time, that great work that they did. But we want to be able to do that consistently. So if you're somebody who always has your hands on some kind of tickets, maybe a gift card to Target or to Walmart or wherever, some kind of way that we could reward them. They can get some nail polish, or it doesn't have to be a lot of money. $5, $10 really is a great way to say thank you for stepping up and thank you for working your program. So we want to encourage you to do that. Also, we are looking for some on-call house managers. And so if you are interested in working in the IM house, please, of course, pray about it and give us a call if you want to discuss it further. We've got a job description we can send on your way. And you can email Michelle at loveneverfailsus.com for that job description, or you can give us a call at 415-933-1133, and we can fill you in on exactly what that role entails. Also, our community outreach or community activism group is looking for some folks to help our program manager, Brenda Ribbs, with tabling. As we go out in the community, she really could use some steady help, somebody who can help take ownership. Reliable help. And so if you are interested in doing that, please give us, again, send an email to community@loveneverfailsus.com. That will go right to Brenda, and she can get you all pulled into the process. Last thing before we go into events, prayer. And it should have been first. I do apologize because this is something we so desperately need. We actually have prayer every Sunday evening at 8 o'clock, and we invite you to join us every Sunday evening. And then please lift us up on a daily basis. Put us in your prayer list and your prayer chain. And if you're doing that, if you would just put on our Facebook page, on Abolition Radio, I am praying for you, that would really encourage us.
Yes.
And if you want more information about that 8 o'clock call, just contact us at prayer@loveneverfailsus.com. And then those events, Benita.
The events, wow. Well, coming up this coming Monday in Richmond at the Richmond Memorial Auditorium is the Moving Beyond Barriers and Back to Work Conference. And on the 16th, Vanessa is being honored with a Homelessness Award there. And so go to our website and check on that link and purchase your ticket for that luncheon so we can be there to support her. Also, on the 17th of June, it's a lobby day in Sacramento. Join California Against Slavery as a lobby for Senate Bill 776 at the Capitol. Our next outreach, day outreach, as well as evening outreach, is the 20th. The day outreach is from 11 to 2 at Lift Initiative in Hayward, 22580 Grand Street. And the evening one, we will be going to Stockton, and we'll be leaving from Faith Fellowship Church. So go to our website and check out more of our events there coming up.
Yes, and don't forget, we are always looking for financial support. As you all know, we are a volunteer-led organization, and we rely heavily on the support that you provide us to keep going. And so if you are able, please sponsor us as a 40 for Freedom partner. You can go to our website, loveneverfailsus.com, and click on Donate. And of course, we want to leave you with these very important message and very important words. You are loved.
Thanks for joining us this week on Abolition Radio. We trust that you've been inspired by these stories of hope and survival, and that you'll accept our challenge to get involved by contacting us at abolitionradio.org, by liking and sharing our page on Facebook, Facebook/Abolition Radio, or by making a contribution directly to Love Never Fails. Abolition Radio is the broadcast outreach of Love Never Fails, which is a donor-supported, nonprofit ministry that Vanessa founded as a way of directly impacting the lives of young people who are trapped in or at risk of becoming involved in sex trafficking. This broadcast needs your involvement and support. To find out more, simply go to abolitionradio.org and click on Love Never Fails. Today's program was brought to you in part by Case Industries and with major support from the staff and membership and donors at Faith Fellowship Church. Our theme song, Courage to Believe, is by Justin McRoberts. Hear more about his passion for justice and art at justinmcroberts.com. Our audio engineer is Jarrell Martin, and this is Dave Naderhood. On behalf of Vanessa, Benita, and the whole team at Love Never Fails, thanks for listening, and thanks even more for taking action to help set captives free.
You're in the neighborhoods we live in. You're in the ones we're passing by. You're in the ones we call our neighbors, and the ones who still sleep our eyes.